I'm Morgan. I went to see an LGBTQIA plus Devised theater piece this evening, and I want to talk about it and the experience, and I will not be naming the specific show that it was for privacy reasons, and they also handed out a whole lot of literature, and I can't show most of it because it showed too much geographic location stuff, but I can show you this. I got this poster that says, "In this house, we say gay, teach real history," and that's something that I feel very strongly about. You'll notice that I do a lot of reading videos of myths from many lands, and older works, and while I do try and avoid using racial slurs, which were sometimes used in that time period, I think it's important to teach real history, to show what people of the past really thought and said and did, even if sometimes it's really quite disheartening or sad. Protect trans kids, amplify Black voices, read banned books, are curious, not judgmental, and show love. And I like it. It's so positive and uplifting. And in the current, the current political climate, it was so nice to just be around people who I think are just still trying to live their best lives, still showing that hey, even though there are some politicians who would prefer if we were erased, we're not gonna go away. LGBTQIA plus people exist. I want to show you. I wore my she/her little. I guess it's what's it called? A pin. I think I got it at a comic convention, and I was really excited to have the opportunity to wear this. And I am bi, but I didn't really bring any merchandise related to that because I was kind of just trying to be a peaceful audience member. And it was a combination of just devised pieces, as well as I think there were a couple of different poems that some of the actors I believe wrote themselves, as well as there was this song. One of the pieces was an actual song that someone wrote, and it was beautiful. I don't have a recording of it, but it was beautiful, and it's oh my gosh, it's so cool to see just a queer artist existing in the world, or just a new performer. I hope sincerely that person goes places, because that would be wonderful. It's cool to see burgeoning artists who haven't made it yet, to see people just trying their best and exercising their creative skills, and producing new work. That's just so cool. That's something that I think was a really awesome, really awesome experience. And one thing that the theater did at the end, what was it? There was this interactive audience segment at the end where it's there were actors who were performing an example of a real life situation where someone might encounter discrimination, where it was I think a queer worker at a coffee shop, and then there was also a just the manager, and then a customer coming in, and a customer being hinting that they don't want a gay person to serve them, and one example of what could be done is hey, the manager is I'll just serve the person, but then there were examples of how do I put this, it was just opened up to the audience to be hey, do you have any ideas of how this situation could have been handled better? And feeding that to the actors, but also hey, if you want to tap in, you can tap in and act that out and see how that goes. And I just thought that was such a cool, immersive experience to get the audience really engaged. And also, I feel I'm someone who struggles to set boundaries. I very much still struggle to set boundaries, and sometimes I struggle to speak up for myself. And so seeing examples of hey, here's what you can do differently in the wild when you see this stuff happen is really awesome. That's really important. I think that was very, very helpful. And just, I love how low stakes that it is, that it's here, let's experiment with these social situations. Here's what you can do differently, where it's thank you. It's it's preparing me for if I encounter that sort of thing in the real world. That's just beautiful. I think it's a wonderful learning experience that really gets people thinking. And one of my role models in life is Jo Jorgensen, and I remember she said one time on Twitter, it's not enough to not be racist, we have to be actively anti-racist, or we must be actively anti-racist. And, you know, I really think a lot about that. It's like, it's not enough to not just it's not enough to be against discrimination. We must actively stand up and say, hey, this is not okay, when we see that sort of thing happening in real life, in the real world. So yeah, I really liked just like that lesson of like, hey, here's what you do. If you see someone being discriminated against, you can be like, hey, if you're not okay being served by a gay person, then well, maybe you could consider taking your business elsewhere, instead of just having the manager just try and be like, well, I'll just serve you instead. Like, the manager could stand up for the work and be like, hey, my employees are gay. If you're not okay with that, then do we really need your business? Like, just that sort of thing where it's like, it is okay to stand up and say, if someone's being discriminatory, it's okay to say, hey, this isn't okay, and to call people out on that stuff. And I feel like I'm someone where it's like, I oftentimes have trouble doing that. I oftentimes have trouble standing up and asserting boundaries and being like, hey, it's not okay when people do things that it's like clearly violate social norms. Like, I really struggle to assert myself, and so it was just a beautiful experience to get practice with that, to see actors practice with that. Like, it was just beautiful. And I think I don't know if it was the director or co-director, but one of the people who was like announcing stuff mentioned something about like theater of the oppressed, and I think that's beautiful. Like, theater of the oppressed, like that's just such a wonderful concept, because with theater, it's like something that I don't think he really went into at all. Wait, I'm not 100% sure what that person's pronouns were, but if I got it wrong, I'm really sorry. It might be they. But I think that person, like, they mentioned like theater of the oppressed, but I think theater of the oppressed is beautiful because with theater, it can be very low budget. You can do a performance in a black box theater without a lot of props. You can do devised pieces and like self-written things. Like, you don't have to have this big ol' huge Hollywood budget to make art. And so I really love the idea of like theater of the oppressed, because theater is such a easy art form in terms of barrier of entry. Like, people can just put together a show at their local park if they want. Maybe there might need to be permits or whatever. Like, it doesn't cost a bunch of money to do theater, and so I think theater of the oppressed is beautiful, like helping to amplify voices that might not otherwise be heard. So I really love this genre. Like, I think theater of the oppressed is a beautiful genre, and I love seeing that in the wild. So yeah, and it was so nice to get to see like just like a couple of people who I hadn't seen in a long time. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta see people that I just, I hadn't really talked to in a long time, and just seeing them and being like, it felt safe, it felt home, it felt wonderful. I loved it. I love that experience. And two, I just, in the current political climate with the way that things are going, it was just nice to know that there are still people who it's like have kind hearts and don't hate gay people. And two, like, I remember like the show itself, like one of the people like called out a specific, I think it was like a specific bill that I myself already knew about, and contacted one of my senators about, to be like, I oppose this. And it's just seeing that grassroots local activism through art, it's just inspiring. It's truly inspiring. So yeah, it felt like home. It felt safe. I think it was really good for just like my well-being to be around other people, to know like, hey, not all the world's gone how do I put this? Like, I don't want to say bigoted, because I know that there are a lot of people who maybe they voted for Trump because of the economy and don't actually support his, like, passport stance. But just, I see in American society, like, I see increased, like, animosity towards the LGBTQIA plus community. Like, I think one thing that got brought up in the piece is there were, like, previously a couple hundred some bills that were, like, against the LGBTQIA plus community a few years ago, and, like, this year it's up to, like, 600 something. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's just, like, I've seen in real time that, like, there's a lot more hostility and animosity towards the LGBTQIA plus community that I, like, never really picked up on or noticed or experienced, like, a few years ago. And so it's nice knowing that there's still people who are, like, for gay rights and have always been and will continue to be so. So yeah, it was just it was just nice. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like it was good mental health, like, mental health wise, just because it's, like, it's nice to be around other people and to know that not all the world's chaotic. And yeah, I don't know, it personally feels to me like I'm living through history being made and not necessarily in a good way. So it's just nice to be in, a safe space around safe people. So yeah, I don't know, I wanted to talk about that, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye!